to show you how to make a map in Skater XL, or at least begin to start bringing things into Skater XL with no prior knowledge. All you'll need is Unity and Blender. You're going to need to install a few things within Unity when it comes down to being able to put the map into game. That is down the line, and all you have to worry about is starting out with your Blender side. A lot of the time, if you are building your own map, there are things you're going to have to account for in Blender, such as things like edge corners or certain sizing of objects. So if you were trying to make certain obstacles like rails, stair sets, planters, mani pads, anything of that nature, you always have to be sure you are working with clean topology, no overlapping edges. A lot of the time, Unity will read your overlapping edges as faulty and not work the colliders as they are needed. Basically, the best way to start any map making process to at least get yourself familiar with putting something into the game would be creating a super simple base platform such as this, just spawning a plane, scaling it up. And also, I'm not going to be giving a Blender rundown. There's tons of tutorials to learn the basic controls of Blender, and that's really all you need to understand the process of getting things in game.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So we will make this as a ledge. We'll basically just scale this down to about the size of our liking. You are also able to grab a bunch of resources from this Skater XL modding Discord. You can scroll down towards the bottom here. They have two mapping sections. Under this how to make a map forum, they have about 40 videos with in-depth tutorials on how to achieve certain things, or modeling tutorials on how to improve certain ramp structures and or obstacles for your maps. They also have a bunch of Unity packages for foliage, as well as texture shaders for water or different tileable assets for your scenes, so definitely worth checking out. I also have a link to this in my Outlet Discord right here. Um, they also do have a bunch of other resources here at the top if you are looking to get into any other aspects of the modding scene for this game. So if you're needing any explanations on certain mod explanations and or how to make certain things for yourself, this is a good place to start, as they do have all of the assets and all of the old tutorials that are still very much relevant to how Skater XL demands for everything. But to get back into it, we can just continue to scale things to our liking. I'm going to import a low poly skater that I had found within that Discord. This skater is the size of your skater in game, so do not resize him. Uh, you're gonna want to build your world based on about the size of this character. So say this is too tall, just scale it down along the z-axis. Have a short ledge, it's still a bit wide so you can mani on it. If you're trying to go for a simple bank, you can literally go as simple as a plane. These can overlap, however, you have to keep in mind that these edges will have contact in game. based on the colliders. So if you are overlapping things like this, be sure to only be showing the more top edges that are poking out of your object. So in this case, it would be simply just this as a bank. And if you did want to then extend the sides down, you are able to go into edit mode, edge select these three edges, press E to extrude, Z to scale on the Z axis, and you have a fully masked ramp. If you're looking for something with more of a transition look, I highly recommend using a plane, going into edit mode, selecting one of your edges, and extruding that along the Z. And you're going to come back down to that edge and press Control B to bevel and drag it. If you use your mouse wheel, you can select the number of cuts this will have as well. So, for example, I don't need anything too um, crazy, and the lower poly the better, as the lower poly meshes work for higher FPS in Skater XL. So you can then exit edit mode unless you wanted that same. Actually, first, what I'll do here is scale along the y-axis so I have a longer quarter pipe. Make sure. And there are better ways to snap your objects together and make sure your values are um, the proper ones you're needing for making sure you don't have in-ground collision or running into obstacles. I currently am still learning that myself. However, there are some add-ons to allow you to snap your objects together with ease and to minimize for those issues. So for here, I'll just select my edges. E, Z, and fade auto. You have smooth quarter pipe, and say you would like a bit of backing on this, you would just go into face select, press E, and extrude your edge. So as you can see, we have a full blocked out quarter pipe now. And if things are too big, you can always rescale. So in this case, this quarter pipe is about the size of him, which is probably ideal if you do want or like larger transition. And this bank, if it is too steep of a bank, you're always able to come back into edit mode, edge select, and use your position tool to then adjust the steepness of your ramp to your liking you're looking for. And when it comes to making, say, a flat bar, you can go as simple as If you want a round rail or a square rail, you just use the same format as this. In my case, I'll do a round rail. Drag this guy back over here. Just scale this down. And then we'll scale it along. You can make everything sized to however you would like it to be. Everything is user preference, so if you like chunky rails, if you like thin rails or tiny rails, if you want tiny spots, big spots, that is all user preference, so build to your mind's desire. And this is completely compatible with low poly assets from, say, Sketchfab. And I say low poly because the lower poly in Unity, the more FPS you're going to have in game, and less issues you will most likely have making your map in general. But say this is all good, we got this to a size that we're happy with. I like to copy that and I will scale along its length axis, rotate this back to 0, and since it was in that exact position, you can just scale it down a little bit. As you can see, pretty decent little post. You can add a modifier with an array and add some offset to it. Perfect. Now you have a nice little flat bar with its individual collision. This I can apply. Sweet. Now once we have our little setup to how we like it, you're able to then export all of this as an FBX. Say you wanted some background or whatever, you can throw background in. Uh, it's easy to do everything within Blender. You're going to want to do everything in here first for your ease in Unity. But now we can hop over to this Unity side. You do not have to uh, export with any certain settings checked. If you are exporting where you only want certain things selected, exported, make sure you have your um, limit to selected objects checked in your um, settings for your export. So in this case, I don't need the skater anymore. I got the map set up to the way I need it or want it. Uh, we can sit there. I like to do this just so it keeps the size in Unity, but I'll select everything. apply all transforms. I do the same thing with my clothing when I'm making this. And then I'll come down to export FBX. We'll just call this tutorial. Now I'll pop over to Unity, and for Unity, you're going to want to make a 2019.315 F1 project in this high definition RP. Perfect. And then when this creates, we will add a couple things to the scene, install our add-ons, and these add-ons can all be found here. Oops. In this how to make a map, that, or you come up here and search SDK, and it will pop up in this list. You're going to want to come to this, to download the SDK. It also explains all of your required packages for making a map. So these are what we're going to be installing in Unity currently as soon as this project opens, followed by our SDK. If you do use DreamTech splines, I'm not exactly sure where the direct download is, uh, but I believe it is somewhere in here. Uh, I use DreamTech for my splines. There are a few methods out for how to do splines, but you are going to want to locate and install that uh, DreamTech SDK. I'll provide it in my Outlet Discord in that mapping channel, so all of these assets will be easily available for anyone looking to do this. But as we are waiting for uh, our Unity project to load, it would be a good time to knock out any textures or any um, ideas that you are wanting to think of for general ideas based on your map. In this Unity, I'll also show up the basics on setting up a super simple environment, or the way that I've been doing it at least. Um, they still aren't the best, and you very much still have to adjust the settings to something that you find appealing, and it will take some trial and error to make sure all your lighting looks proper in game, as it does look different in this engine. However, if you do get the lighting proper, it is pretty much exactly how it shows in this. So it's a lot of just adjusting exposure values, making sure your HDRI and or skybox of choice reacts to your lighting in the way that you are looking for. So when this finishes, we'll be able to delete this example assets, tutorial info, and this README file. Let me now also make sure I have DreamTech and the Skater XL SDK. You're also going to want to grab this tags and layers preset This allows you to tag your objects with sounds for the sound mod and just in-game sounds for your map. So you can have surfaces of concrete, brick, or metal. Also keep in mind these projects are very, very size heavy depending on the sizing of maps you are trying to build. So if you are looking to get into this, be sure you have available space, as I have multiple projects and one of them is now above 15 gigabytes. So be sure to keep an eye on your project sizing and the models that you have in your current scenes, because it does add up very fast and you will wonder where that space just up and magically went. Now, as this finishes up, we will delete our example assets. Uh, Tutorial info, and I will delete this readme. Also, another massive tip: do not ever have a light in, or not a light, a camera in your scene upon exporting or building your map. It will break Skater XL's in-game camera. Um, for your environments, I highly recommend keeping the um, post volume and sky volume, as these ones are where you're going to set up your environmental things. Here, I'm going to create this, and we will just import our map into Unity. Up here, for small test maps like this, or if you're just trying to get test builds of maps, I highly recommend coming down here and checking Generate Colliders in this Model tab within Unity. This will allow for mesh colliders to be generated upon your mesh without you having to set anything up. As you can see, there are no materials. I didn't set up any for each thing. This is something that you're going to have to do within Blender, is if you are making things from scratch, make sure you're creating materials for these things and calling them what they are. So in this case, this would be the just the bank. This would be the ledge. Rail. And then what we can also do here, so it's not a separate object from its counter pieces, is just join them together. This is the quarter pipe and our floor. So now each object will show up with a material separate. If I just deleted this, deleted our asset out of here, grab our new one, make sure we check generate colliders. each one of our things will now have its own material file. Perfect. If you do want to edit these material files, you'll come in here, same way as clothing. You'll extract them from prefab. I like to unpack this completely. I also like to apply double-sided to all of my textures. As you can see, when you do extrude faces, it likes to cull out these blank spaces, so a lot of them will call for that double-sided. And you can sit and manually adjust the color. I normally set things to appear white if I have texture base maps that I can drag in. So if I already had like a preset texture, say um, a gravel or a concrete or metal, then I would just drag and drop into here. Smoothness 0 for concrete and stuff, unless I had a mask map. If you are importing textures and stuff, one thing I highly recommend doing, let me show this real fast, is say uh, you have a texture right here, and this texture is needing to have its ANISO level changed to 16 for highest quality. I'm not 100% sure why, but I was told this improves textures. Um, if this were a mask map, you would uncheck the RGB, and if this was a normal map, you would change it to normal map. Uh, but make sure each one of those has an ANISO level of 16, and you just press apply and apply that to whatever you were trying to apply it to. This will fix any weird visual errors you're having with your map and or kind of like preset uh, or non-read write materials. So all you would need to then do is press apply, do your thing, color your map how you want. Um, in our case, since all of these have colliders now, um, they aren't going to be great colliders, and you might notice that your board will like snap through the ground. So a lot of the times, they will call for custom box colliders or things of that nature. So in this case, clean meshes generate clean colliders. So you always have to keep that in mind. So in this case, this box collider is now going to read as a solid object. Same thing goes for all of these objects. So if you were to use a box collider, um, it very much improves reading thickness of objects. So make sure you're applying these things to the things that call for it. Quarter pipes and stuff will be spotty. As you can see, it doesn't read the geometry of where it's supposed to be. So a lot of the time, if people are trying or having issues with quarter pipes, making a duplicate in Blender is normally a good bet to do it. Because if you have this duplicate, you can have it unrendered, but using it as its main collider. So you're making an LODN map of that object for it to read, basically. Um, but yeah, just in turn, continue using that mesh collider for um, transition objects. For these rails, a lot of the times you're able to use capsule colliders. And you can size these out properly. You can also just look up collider and it'll give you a ton of different collider options for your types of objects. So in this case, I'm going to just continue to use the um, mesh collider because if I were to uh, use this or show it, the collider for it would be just the clean tubes. And the same goes for this. Use duplicates of LODs for your objects for clean collision. In this case, we'll try the box. As you can see, the box failed. So we'll just continue with the basic. Perfect. Now these objects have their collision. Now let's talk a little bit about your environmental things very quickly. If you are trying to import an HDRI, I highly recommend using the, actually I still need this open, HDRI Haven website. You can find tons of free skies here, and they all are light reactive. So in my case, let me grab just grab this guy for now. As you can see, this is just a photo. To change this, you're going to come down here and change its texture shape to cube and press apply. As you can see, this changed. If we go back to my sky and fog, I can now drag this into my HDRI sky, and it gives me a background. I like to change all of these settings. And as you can see, it's not really reacting to our world just yet. And the reason this is if you come over here to our directional light, you can change this to real time. You can also lower the values or set them to more of the light we're trying to achieve. So in this case, this would be a little bit more of a yellowish hue. Oops. Cool. We got our shadows going. Next, we would just come in here. And you can set a fixed exposure value. So if your world's too bright or you do want a bit more contrast to your world, like even this just gives it a bit more character. Just keep in mind your values are affecting absolutely everything regarding uh, your world. So in this case, we'll just turn on some basic random things. As you can see, ambient occlusion deepens your shadows. And even this, very, very simple setup, very few additional things added. And it's already massively improved visually. Add a color adjustment. This color adjustment adds a secondary exposure value. Can also add a shadow, midtone, and highlight. So you can then better gauge your color profile. Perfect. So say we're happy with this visually. We can then come up here to this window tab, come down to our package manager. Pop back open this tab, and we will begin searching for each one of these things before we add in our tools. So if we start with addressables, it said 185. As you can see, there are multiple versions, so make sure you're checking the version number it is calling for. Each one of these things will take a little bit to install as well, so also keep that in mind. Our second one we are going to want to install is burst 130. As you can see, it doesn't show up with the right version at first, even in the dropdown, so you just press see all versions. Called for 130, just to verify. We just install that version. Next package, we'll do this one. Editor Workings. One point oh. This one. And lastly, because it is the biggest install for it, high definition RP 714 or 741 driven. Version it called for is 741. So this one, you just press update to 741. Perfect. Now that this is done, we can finally come back, install our where is it? Our tags and presets first. Then I like to install DreamTech. As you can see, it's going to import a bunch. Just press import. And the next thing you're going to want to download is this SDK. DreamTech. Now we just install our SDK. And that should mean we are all set and ready to go. So after this imports, we'll set up our tags and layers first. Perfect. And as you can see, it created a new Skater XL folder of all of our stuff. If you come over here, you can see all of the tags this gave us. What we'll do, this, layers, add a layer, this, tags and layers. Perfect. Now we should, perfect. So now, say we want this grindable concrete. We want this quarter pipe. Because it is transition, we want auto pump and revert turned on for any transition. So in this case, I'll do concrete. This rail and floor, we'll do concrete, rail, grind metal, and tank. We'll do surface brick. So now, as you can see, all of these things have a surface tag to them. Now, if we wanted to add grind splines, you're going to come up here to this tools section. We press this Skater XL tools. It'll pop this window up for you. Select your object and go into this grind tools. From here, you can set your basic material and whatever selected object you have, you press scan for the grindable edges. As you can see, it got all four. If you do not want all four, you don't have to do them. You can snag on the corners if all four are splined, but that's totally on you if you want that. but then you just press make grindable and deselect. And now you can see that's a splined object. Same thing with this rail. Got that whole thing. So it would make it metal and grindable. Quarter pipe. Sometimes it does struggle with the edges, as you can see, so you will have to mess with certain settings on this, such as max grind up angle, setting like values and such differently on this. I'm not exactly sure good values to set on this, as I've never found any good settings as of yet. So it's honestly just a matter of playing with your settings. Yeah, as you can see, a lot of the time you are going to want separate coping and stuff for these things, as they are a pain in the ass to spline. But say this is good enough for us and we are fine leaving this undone until we fix our edge. And like I said before, it is just a matter of making that edge. Another way you can also go about this is adding a 3D cube. As you can see, make it about where that coping would be. Yeah, size it as needed. This perfect. So say this is fine. All we have to do is turn off our renderer, and all it leaves is the collider. And what we would do in this case is open up our tools window again and analyze this selected object. Make sure all your settings are reset to default before doing so. As you can see, concrete, make grindable, deselect. Now we have a splined edge. However, with this grindable edge, I'm also gonna want to redo that. That way we can verify it was set to coping. Mark all coping and mark all concrete. Make grindable. Now, perfect. We have everything labeled as needed. Next step is building your map. So all you would do here is prior to your export, save your scene. I normally save it in this same scenes folder. Now we have everything. Let's verify our last needed things. So create an empty object by right clicking in here. Create a spawn point and mark it as such. And the location of this does matter, so make sure you verify wherever it is placed. Whatever way the blue arrow is facing is the direction you'll spawn. If it is not rotating when you rotate, like use your rotate tool. As you can see, I just rotated and it's still facing that way. Change from global to local and adjust to your liking. So in my case, -90. So I'm facing everything. I'll back it up and raise it up so I'm not on the floor. Boom. If you do want ambient audio, create an empty, add an audio source, drag your clip in here, make sure it loops, and turn your volume down to like a 0.7 or above. If you want an object that has like sound when you're getting closer, or like further from it, make sure you change it from 2D to 3D audio and adjust its volume and stuff as needed. But other than that, that's the basic on that. Everything else regarding map stuff is user preference and how they choose to build it. But for the most part, our next step is just bundling this and testing to see if our grinds work. And all we will have to do for that is come up here, press tools. Now that we saved our scene, we'll name this. Come down here and select your scene, whatever version number this is, and make sure you change your targeted build outlet directory. So in my case, I have it on my desktop. and you would just press build and make sure you save your project. And as you can see, whenever it finishes, we will verify. Right here. You just copy your map file into your Skater XL map folders. And we test. But this is a very, very useful document to come check to. Once again, I will have everything linked in my Discord provided for everyone for ease of access. But yeah, just refer mainly back to these and the uh, Skater XL modding Discord, as their tutorials are going to be much more in depth and better explained than mine are. This is just the basic start to finish, how you can go about throwing something into the game map wise, even if you're just trying to do simple things for an edit you had an idea for simple spots, or a map with simple lighting for a scene you were trying to shoot and such. So any ideas you have, this kind of expands and allows for a lot more, as you can do specific particle effects, different event triggers or map triggers based on skater position, or when your skater interacts with things. You can set up NPC missions, you can set up the whole shebang. That Discord offers a lot of option, and definitely check out all of their work. There's some longer videos, but they're very in-depth and intuitive to show you all the steps. So if you are willing to learn, the steps are still very much the same for anything current. And I highly recommend learning, because in my personal opinion, I've had an easier time learning these map things than I have clothing in the time frame that I've spent doing my Skater XL modding. But now we will just wait for this to load up. The only collision that needs to change is the floors. As you can see, the only collision I'm having is falling through. Skater XL works a lot better on solid objects. As you can see, it's and registering the sounds and such that I am needing for these transplants. If your splines are buggy like this, I highly recommend doing the plier method in Blender, as Unity's is a bit more buggy. So, in this case, creating a remake of this simply with adjusted colliders. And it's ready to run again.
victory royale. Yeah, Fortnite, we bout to get down. 10 kills on the board right now. Just wiped out Tomato Town. My friend just gone down. I revived him, now we're heading southbound.